Today, we're going to talk about what to do if a man pulls away, walks away, some of the mistakes, and what you should do in these particular cases. So, I've heard these questions come across my desk over and over again. Should I text a man if I notice he's pulling away? Well, the answer is maybe. Should I chase him if he's pulling away? Well, maybe. The answer is maybe. Should I go on and live my best life if he pulls away? Maybe. Now, why are all these maybes? And some of you are going to say to me, I should never chase a man, but I do believe that we confuse chasing and effort sometimes. Making effort isn't necessarily chasing. But pulling away, what does pulling away represent? I think it's important to investigate this. What does pulling away mean? It means pulling back, taking space, getting centered, detaching, and maybe even reflecting on the merits of a relationship. I think human beings oftentimes pull away, and they could be sitting right in front of you and they can be pulling away, emotionally speaking, or they could be pulling away physically. When we think of a man pulls away, we think of physical shifts, but what about emotional shifts? And what is pulling away when we get really granular? I think it's really getting clarity on the relationship. Now, some people pull away because they're incapable of going further or deeper down the emotional path of a relationship. I remember shortly after divorce, I met a woman, really fantastic lady. We dated for 3 months. And I realized I reached my emotional capacity as far as I could go. If you'd asked me, I'm ready for a relationship, I would have been told you I'm absolutely ready for a relationship. But I recognized at that moment, I was only capable of, I don't want to say a surface level relationship, but I was only capable emotionally of, let's just say, the first level of a relationship. The first level of commitment. What is the first level of commitment? I think is the agreement to monogamy and exclusivity. And in that moment, I had agreed to monogamy and exclusivity. I was ready for that level, that first level of commitment. The second level of commitment, and this is what I wasn't ready for, was teamwork. Our lives were a little bit misaligned with one another, and I had a hard time in those early stages after my divorce to even be a teammate to myself, let alone a teammate to another human being. In fact, I see this as the biggest hangup for most couples, is that they can't reach this second level of commitment, which is teammates to one another. But you might be asking, well, Jonathon, what's the third level of commitment? Even though I didn't state there'd be 3 levels. But if the first level is the agreement to monogamy and exclusivity, and if the second level is teammates, then the third level of commitment, and maybe there's sub levels within number 2, but the third level of commitment is all in. I'm ready to go down with the ship with this person. So if we review current patterns in our dating and our relationship makeup in the dating marketplace today, we see a lot of people who are hooking up. We see a lot of friends with benefits. We see a lot of situationships, it's an undefined relationship. We see a lot of casual relationships. How many people are approaching it from a serious perspective? Okay. You might be going, well, Jonathon, what does this have to do with pulling away? You see, a human being who isn't clear on what they want, particularly in the area of wanting a life partner, they're going to be uncertain. They're going to be ambivalent. They're going to be ambiguous, if you will. And when we're in a state of ambiguity, uncertainty, what's the other A word? Ambivalent, then pulling away is a natural response, because you're not operating from a place of certainty. You're operating from a place of confusion. And so pulling away is a natural reaction. So you might be going, well, Jonathon, what's the mistake? What do I do when he walks? What's the mistake women make? I think the biggest mistake women make today is they don't properly vet a man in the early stage of dating. And what I mean to say by vetting, first, I think the big mistake you make, ladies, is you aren't really clear on the type of relationship you're looking for. I mean, to say, or let me reframe that. That's not fair. Okay. I think many of you don't know who's really compatible with you. That's the area where I see as the biggest mistake women in particular make. Men are just clueless. Okay. Let me just be clear. And I know this sounds like a judgment and that's kind of throwing it out cavalierly, but men are rather clueless. They're driven by their penis most of the time. Okay. They're not thinking, men, and particularly men in midlife. Excuse my slurping. Men in midlife are radically clueless because in their 20s and 30s, oftentimes they were on the hunt for a mother of their children, but in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, they just want companionship, connection, and sex. And they recognize now, men recognize that they can give some companionship, some connection, some sex without any level of commitment. Remember I shared those 3 levels of commitment? Men can agree to monogamy and exclusivity, but a lot of men won't agree to teammates, or they don't know how to be a teammate, or they don't even want a teammate. And if you can't reach teammate level, then how can you ever reach the level of full commitment, all in? So I think the big mistake a woman makes is okay. In the context of this conversation, when a man pulls away, he's reevaluating, he's assessing. You should be reevaluating and assessing too. That's what you should do. You should ask yourself, are we really aligned with each other from a future perspective? Now, certainly you can ask yourself, what qualities do I admire in him? And you can ask yourself, what am I more attracted to the qualities in him because it's a deficiency within myself? That would be a good question to ask yourself when he pulls away. Let me repeat that. What qualities in him do I most admire? And ask yourself, are those qualities you wished you had within yourself? Why do you want this relationship to work? And I know many of us are hooked on love attachment. If you're not familiar with the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, actually, let me grab a couple books. Wired for Love by Dr. Stan Tatkin and Wired for Dating by Dr. Stan Tatkin, you might find that you are merely attached to a person from an unhealthy, insecure place within your life. So when he pulls away, it's a great opportunity for you to really evaluate, what do you really want? And if he walks away completely, just remember, if it's not right for one person, it's not right for 2 people. Dating is a vetting process to determine if they're capable of being in a significant relationship. I'm a big proponent of asking big, gigantic questions before you ever meet in person. When I say big, gigantic question, but Jonathan, people tell me it shouldn't be an interview process. I disagree. I think dating is an interrogation process. Now, how do you do it in a loving, kind way? Well, that's something that needs to be honed and practiced. See, we no longer live in an environment, particularly women, that are dependent upon men for their survival. So we're actually in a stage where you can make choices based on alignment. See, most relationships up until about 50 or 60 years ago was very transactional, very conditional. I'm inviting you all to look at as a relationship as somebody who can help you grow as an individual. Help you grow as an individual, help you improve, that's what teammates is all about. Is this person on the same page with me? Are we on the same team? Do we want to grow as individuals? That's my invitation for you. And also, do they want a life partner? Folks, after my divorce, I was sharing the story of that relationship I had for 3 months. I so wasn't ready to get married. I so didn't want a life partner. I just knew I wanted occasional companionship, occasional connection, occasional sex. If you haven't seen my chart, the 3 people who are actively dating, please forgive the glare. Now, roughly 20% of the population, by the way, this is not a fact, it's merely an opinion. 20% of the population are users. Oh, 20% are users. Oh, actually, let me just give this chart. Excuse me. This is without the glare. Okay. 20% are users. They're love bombers, they're players, they're gold diggers. They're only out for themselves. And while I say over here, 20% are what I call grower builders, the vast majority of human beings are in this category of 60%. They want companionship, connection, and sex. They oftentimes have a dysfunctional life to some degree. What else did I say? They just want to, the reason why they're called spenders is they want to spend time with you. This is the majority of people out in the dating marketplace. They just want time from you. You're a placeholder until and a lot of times you might feel like you're being used, because I know it's tough for many of you ladies, because you're going, gosh, Jonathon, it feels like I only get spenders or users. I get it. It's 80% of the population. This is why you got to be radically upfront very early on. Find out, what does commitment look like for them? What does a relationship look like for them? Do they want to grow as an individual, or they just want to experience life from a day-to-day perspective? There's nothing wrong with transactional or conditional relationships. They just oftentimes if 50% of first marriages end in divorce, if 65 to 75% of second and third marriages end in divorce, if roughly 90% of all people that entered into a relationship ended at some point. And you know how I know this? If you've had 5 relationships that lasted 3 months or longer and you're still single, that's 5 relationships that didn't work out. That means you have a 100% ending rate, okay? Not at 6. There's no success if you're single and you've had 5 relationships. I mean, think about statistically speaking. And by the way, this can all seem very deflating. And yet I'm a big believer. Love is a risk, but it's still the best game in town. Like, okay, so you know what? If you don't get a life partner in this lifetime, maybe you get it in the next lifetime. But I still believe in love, romantic love. I still believe putting yourself out there to connect with other human beings. Our big mistake is we put too much pressure on having somebody else fulfill our love cup. The reason why I wrote a book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway, all the books I recommend are listed below, is because it's this journey of life is about filling our own love cup, not dependent upon someone else. And they oftentimes say you meet the person when you stop chasing, when you stop from a desperate perspective. It's okay to make effort, but if it comes from a place of lack, and I'm guilty of this. And I'm guilty of wanting companionship, connection, and sex. But I'm very clear, and I'm sharing this for everyone, that commitment is the pathway to a deeper level of connection and intimacy with another human being. This is why I'm such a big advocate for it. So if a man pulls away, should you text him? Maybe. Ask him what's going on. Should you chase them? No, you can make effort. That's okay. Should you go live your own life? Maybe. But you know what? Talk to the guy. Have a conversation. Get clarity on what's the purpose of this relationship. And if you're not on the same page, then you can actually move on. Because the big mistake is trying to create up stories in your head about what's going on. And I'm inviting you to ask the deeper questions, to get clarity, to find out if you're on the same page, and then make a decision from that vantage point. Folks, is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you value my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to get all the books I recommend and my dating vows, and follow me on Instagram, all listed below. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathon bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm asking you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow. There's a teddy bear. Give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.